Illman, Mike Beer, David Grening getting set for the Saturday race of the day. It's, of course, the Breeders' Cup Classic, race number 9 at Anita. We're going 1.25 miles for $6 million. Before we take a look at the field, remember the DRF player packages are available, 3 separate tiers, all your favorite handicapping products, discounted prices. Learn more, shop.drf.com. Here's the field for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Unfortunately, the Belmont and Travers winner, the number 1, Arcangelo, has scratched and has subsequently retired, but we still have a very strong field, and it's a very competitive one.
No question. We could go many ways on different days, and we're taping this on Tuesday. We'll see what the field looks like come Saturday.
It is a wide open. I think it lacks a little bit of star power, maybe, this Breeders' Cup Classic, but it does feel like an interesting betting race, if nothing else.
I agree with that. I mean, the favorite before Arcangelo came out was going to be around 7-2, maybe 4-1. Now with that horse out, of course, I would have taken a lot of money. There might be someone around 3-1. Dare I say 5-2?
Yeah. We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race, and they're expecting a fast pace with that red bar. You have to think that the 12 Arabian Nights going to be forwardly placed. That's Baffert's game in all these big races. That's been Arabian Nights' game since day one. But Saudi Crown, the number 6, is really the key to this race.
Arabian Night, Baffert's going from the outside post. They're not going to rate that horse. Saudi Crown's been nothing but speed. Are they going to try to rate this horse as he goes for $6 million in this race? I'd be shocked if they did.
Don't take away a horse's best weapon, right. And that's, the speed is their best weapon. It's going to be a rider's race going into that down the stretch first turn between Giroux on Saudi Crown and Pratt on Arabian Night. It'll be interesting to see who, if anyone, concedes. Right. Then, throw in the fact, and I'm not saying he's fast enough, but Bright Future is a forward factor, wants to be in there. I don't know that he's fast enough to be with those horses, but he's not going to be too far off if they're trying to, play a little cat and mouse there.
And even Dermasotogake, who was the gate-to-wire winner of the UAE Derby, sometimes doesn't break very well, as we saw in the Kentucky Derby. He's very fresh. Perhaps he'll be part of the pace. A horse that would appreciate the fast pace. Arcangelo is out now from the inside post. The number 2, Zandon. He's real consistent. Past 7 races over fast tracks. He's earned triple-digit buyers. He's only won 1 this race, the Woodward.
Yeah, look, I've been a fan of Zandon. I believe he was my Kentucky Derby pick a year and a half ago, and he ran a respectable race. He was third. He didn't really want the 1.25 miles then. Didn't want the 1.25 miles in the Travers. He's 4 now, a little bit more seasoned, has a little bit, more to him than there was then. It's still a tough idea to see him getting the 1.25 miles, but he's run very well every one of his races this year. I mean, he's run second at Cody's Wish when Cody's Wish ran a hole in the wind. He ran second to White Barrio when no one was going to beat White Barrio in the Whitney that day. Even a second to Repo Rocks when Repo Rocks was at the top of his game and now is in the Witness Protection Program. This horse always shows up, and I'm counting on him showing up in some way, shape, or form on set.
I am too, because he does always show up. Right. I think you bring up a good point about the 1.25 miles. I wonder if that's the real sticking point for this horse. Maybe it's just a little beyond his best. He ran really well last time. I don't think he beat a great field, but just another good performance. I think he's going to be there at the end. I'm not using him on top.
Correct. White Barrio is the number 3. Rad Ortiz up for Rick Dutrow. This horse won the Florida Derby last year. His 2 starts for Dutrow have both been good. I didn't think he had a great trip in the Metropolitan Handicap. He ran just fine. No one was beating Cody's Wish that day. He came back and he dominated the mic to the tune of a 110 buyer. Watch him spurt away.
This is a huge performance from this horse. Cody's Wish didn't fire his best shot going the 9 furlongs here. I don't think it was going to matter anyway. This horse was really good on the day. I guess if you take Cody's Wish out, maybe you're just looking at it and going, big deal. He beat Zandon and Charge It, and there was nobody else in there. Who cares about what figure he got? I thought he looked really good. His 2 races for Dutrow are the 2 best races he's ever run. He's got to prove that 1.25 miles, but I'm taking his chances very seriously off the Whitney.
No question. And look, sometimes it is a question of who you beat, but in this case, it's how he did it. And he looked very good that particular day in the Whitney, and I don't know that anyone was beating him. The weird thing is he was actually earmarked for the Forgo and not the Whitney. A confluence of circumstances came up that they said, let's take a shot in the Whitney because they felt Cody's Wish was the horse to beat. There wasn't much else in the race, as you mentioned, aside from Zandon, but they weren't too afraid of him. And they said, let's take a shot here, and it paid off. And now he's potentially the Breeders' Cup Classic favorite off a big number, long layoff. But Rick Dutrow, look, I know he's been away for 10 years. He didn't forget how to train.
He knows what he's doing.
The 4 has missed the cut, and maybe he's a cut below from a class standpoint. And maybe this distance is a cut below his best because he just looks like a true marathoner. Maybe we would have wanted to see him in that Breeders' Cup marathon if Next shows up in that race. I missed the cut, won the Tokyo City last time. There's only 3 other horses. This is a whole different ball.
It's a different ball game, different kettle of fish that he's going to have to tackle in this race. The best thing he has going for him is his 4 races. Of his 4 races in this country, his 2 best are at stake.
Yeah, he likes the track. He's a horse who wants distance. I mean, it's pretty clear from his PPs. He won 3 times going a mile and a quarter overseas. He went the mile and a half last time, no problem. Distance is fine for him. It feels like he's probably not good enough.
Derma Sotogake, one of 2 in here from Japan. He did win the UAE Derby in gate-to-wire fashion. Watching those races that day, it seemed like you wanted to be on the inside most of the way. He broke from the rail. He took that field wire to wire. I'm not sure what he beat. The Kentucky Derby, listen, he just didn't break very well. He didn't fire. He's coming into this race off a really long layoff day.
Yeah, I think that's the issue for me is the layoff. He was supposed to run in the race that Ushpa Tesoro ran in, and he had a little bit of a foot, and he skipped that race. So now, as you've mentioned, he's coming in off the Derby lap. This was my Derby horse. I thought he was going to run a big race, and actually he kind of did.
Yeah.
Because as you say, he got off bad. He also acted up terribly in the paddock. I wanted to sort of cancel my bets when I saw him in the paddock. Who's to say he's not going to do that here? It's an even smaller paddock here, off the layoff. As much as I liked him in the Derby, as much as I don't like him.
There's a lot working against him here. I don't want to disagree with Dave too much, but I was one who did not like him at all going into the Derby. I didn't think he ran that well. There's nothing about it that makes me want to bet him back in this race.
I think mine was more of I didn't like the U.S. 3-year-olds at the time.
That's right.
And I was like looking for a stranger, and he was catching my eye in the mornings in his training at Churchill, whereas I haven't really seen him a whole lot here, but I just think, his antics and layoff and 3-year-old versus older is a different ballgame here.
The 6 Saudi Crown, the classic second season 3-year-old. He's coming into this race perhaps at the right time. 3 consecutive triple-digit buyers, including this gate-to-wire score in the Pennsylvania Derby. And in this race, he just showed off his speed. He got to the front, he relaxed real well, and he's able to hold off like for Todd Pletcher. He's got to do it at a mile and a quarter, Mike, against other paces.
Yeah, the pace is probably the biggest issue for him, with Arabian Night probably gunning at him from the outside in this race. I like everything this horse has done on the track, I guess. I personally don't really like the 3-year-olds in this year's Classic all that much, so I don't really need Saudi Crown, but if you do like him, I guess you'll get him at a pretty fair price for the first time.
I'm interested to see how he's bet, because I thought he's been
pegged a little bit higher than I actually think he'll go off at. This is a fast horse.
Yeah, he is.
This is a serious racehorse. The thing we don't know is what distance is his best. I mean, he's 1 from 6 to a mile and an eighth. They caught a sloppy track on a fast pace, on a track that was favoring speed in the Pennsylvania Derby. And as you mentioned, it's Dreamlike who came running for second. I don't know that the Pennsylvania Derby had the upper echelon 3-year-olds. Il Miracolo, third that day, did come back and run second in the Fayette last weekend. So that's a plus. I just think this is a serious racehorse who may be a race away, or maybe just next year is going to show us up. I actually thought that they might do the Knicks Go route. I thought they might go Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile this year, get him to Saudi and do the Saudi Cup at the mile and eighth, 1 turn, and then we'll see him to really show himself next year. But I can't argue with him being here. He might be the fastest horse in the race.
I agree.
The 7 is Clapton, a horse really looking for an electric pace up front and perhaps some meltdown. Scored last time out at Churchill Downs, second time for Chad Summers. He's earned some fast figures in his last 3 races. He's just getting a real class quiz.
It is, and I actually thought he ran fairly well in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. How strong was his Jockey Club Gold Cup? I don't know. We'll get to a horse that I think Mike and I both like a little bit, who ran second that day, but and then he comes back and he wins the Lucas Classic, which I didn't think was a very good field. Kudos to him to winning. Kudos to Chad Summers to picking the spot out and going there and get the victory. I think I'm with you there. I think it's just a cut below this group.
It feels like he last time was really the time to have him. It was a good price. It was a weaker field. He had a great setup that day with a big pace in front of him, and he did it with what he's supposed to do. I personally think he's underrated. Like Dave, I think he ran a deceptively good race in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. This is another tough spot for him, but I wouldn't totally discount him at a big price.
The 8 is Ushpa Tesoro, the best dirt horse in Japan. He's won 6 in a row, including the Dubai World Cup, and He was on the rail early in that race, but he did have to come outside, and he ran everybody down in the stretch. He was freshened after that performance. I think the last race was just a perfect prep for him. They took him drop down in class against weaker horses. He didn't have to really go to the bottom of the well to beat that field. The runner-up's another one of those JRA horses. That Nippon TV High is open to the regional races as well as the JRA. That runner-up's okay on the main circuit. He came back to win a listed stake.
I kind of want to defer to you two guys with this horse. I know that he can win. I know the distance is fine for him. There's plenty to like about this horse. The only thing that I really know about him, and I hope you guys know more than I do, the Dubai World Cup, he ran fine in that race. He got a really good trip, and it's a race where he ran down Algiers, who I think Algiers is a nice horse. Algiers wants no part of a mile and a quarter.
Right. I mean, the Dubai World Cup is a little bit of a suspect field when you consider the mile and a quarter is played into his favor, but we're a mile and a quarter here. He's shown that he really likes the dirt. I think he handles those deeper surfaces, and the horseman we're talking about at this track being a bit earlier in the week, being a bit on the deeper side. My biggest concern with this horse cropped up on Monday when they took him to the gate and he threw a wingding in the gate. Yeah. And that's something they were planning to work with him as the week went on. And hopefully they resolve some of those issues, because you don't want to be giving up too much here. Yeah. You're already giving up a lot coming to this country and, facing better quality horses than you probably have faced before. You don't want to be giving up lengths at the gate.
Exactly. He will stay. He should be running on in the stretch. The 9 is Senor Buscador, a horse that won the San Diego 3 starts back against Slow Down Andy. No match for Arabian Night 2 back. This horse is just a one-run closer. He's pace dependent. He's going to get the setup. I've always felt he was sort of better at slightly shorter distances.
That's the thing. I think he's sort of the West Coast Zandon. Maybe not as good, maybe not as consistent, but I thought his Awesome Again was a solid enough effort. He probably was further back than he needed to be on a track that was favoring the speed sort of types. Slow Down Andy got hurt, so he didn't make this race. The Defunded was felt, Baffert said, I don't want to go in this race, so probably wasn't as strong. It wasn't the strongest field as he's going to face here, but he will get the setup. He has run well on this track a little bit, but I think he's going to be 5th or 6th of his ceiling.
He should have pace in front of him in this race, and that could certainly help his chances. He's going to be a big price too if you like him. I don't think he's the best closer in the race.
Todd Pletcher always has thought a lot of the 10 Dreamlike, so much so that he ran him as a 3rd start maiden in the Wood Memorial, and he vindicated Todd's belief. He ran a good 3rd that day. He was only beaten ahead. Todd gave him a break to have him here for the second half of the season. His last race, the Pennsylvania Derby, was a good one. He got wired by a very talented horse. Yeah. I thought all in all, Dreamlike had a good trip. Is it the wet track, though, that moves him up? Because he's really performed well on wet tracks this summer.
He really has. That's true. I don't really know what to make of this horse. He's another horse. He's a 3-year-old. I guess there's a chance that he turns out to be really good. I thought he ran fine last time. I don't really want the 3-year-olds in here. You mentioned Pletcher ran him as a maiden in the Wood Memorial, and he did run well that day. That was 7 months ago. He's got 1 win since then. I'm supposed to like him in the Breeders' Cup Classic?
I'm with you there. The Wood Memorial I thought was just the average to maybe subpar race. This horse, isn't he supposed to bounce too? This was the forward move that he made from the maiden win to the Pennsylvania Derby was huge. He's supposed to regress, and I don't know that he's talented enough to beat any. If you put him in the Discovery, I would like him Friday in the Discovery. I don't like him here.
Bright Future is a horse that seems to want to stay all day, and I like that he's shown some tactical speed in his last 2 races at longer distances and able to sustain his run all the way to the wire, as he did in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Now, the pace wasn't blazing in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, but he stayed right up close to it. He got the jump on Proxy. That might have made all the difference.
I think it did. I think it did make all the difference. I thought the trip was just a better one for Bright Future. That's not to say that he can't get a good one in here, because I think Dave's right. He wants to be forward, but he's shown that he doesn't need the lead to run his best race. He's coming off of the 2 best races of his life. Maybe he jumps forward again. I personally think he has to jump forward again, but maybe he'll do it.
He does have to jump forward again, in my opinion, and he will be chasing those 2. I think he'll be up forward, as you said. He'll be chasing those Saudi Crown and Arabian Night, and at some point he might just say, all right, I don't really want to chase these guys.
Arabian Night might be the horse with the most natural talent of any in this race. He's very lightly raced. After he won the Southwest, people are talking Kentucky Derby. Then you have the situation where Baffert can't train these horses up until the Derby. Arabian Night has issues, so all of a sudden he shows up in the Haskell. I think he was a short horse in the Haskell in the Pacific Classic last time out. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe he had an easy trip on the lead. I didn't think it was that easy. He had to fend off a couple of good challenges, including one from Slow Down Andy, before holding off Go Rocket Ride.
weird track that day too. And I asked Bob about it. He said, that hurricane sort of blew through the week before. It kind of made the track a little bit funky. And this was kind of a slow race for the Pacific Classic in the history of that race. And look, I give him kudos. He gutted it out. He's only run 4 times. This horse is supposed to be better. They thought enough of him to ship him to Keeneland to debut him. They love maiden races here at Santa Anita. They sent him to Keeneland to showcase him on the Friday of Breeders' Cup week, and that he did. I mean, he dazzled that day. And, this horse has always been well meant. I believe I heard the stat, and I didn't totally look this up, but no horse has won the Classic in his 5th career start. Okay. Stafford's won the race 5 times. Yeah. I think Ford's 4 with 3-year-olds, or he's going for his 5th. He won it 4 with 3-year-olds in front-running fashion. The only thing is he's going to look to his inside and see Saudi Crown right there.
The pace feels like it could be a real issue for him. Your call whether you want to take a short price on him in this race. I personally think he's the most talented horse in this field. It doesn't mean that he has to win, though, going 1.25 miles. I think, Dan, your point's well taken. That pace was pretty solid last time. It was a little slow late for my liking, but he did a lot of hard work in it.
And completing the field is the number 13 Proxy, the Godolphin homebred trained by Michael Stidham. He just missed in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And it seems this guy just tries hard each and every time. There are things to like. A, he stays. Yeah. B, he's run well over this track. C, he's going to be a price. And B and D, he is the horse with tactical speed that he can work out any kind of a trip.
It does feel like that. I do think he will be running at the end of this race no matter where he is early. He stays all day long this horse. I know he's 0 for 3 over this distance, but he ran really well last time in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He ran really well when they shipped him out here for the big cap earlier this year in a race where nobody closed but Proxy. I think he's actually underrated. I don't want to try to make too big of a case for him here, but I don't think he's overmatched by these horses if he can work out the right trip.
I agree. And I think what's going to help him work out the right trip is being on the outside. When you look at his past performances and when you talk to trainer Michael Stidham, he doesn't want to be on the inside of horses. And I think that kind of worked against him a little bit in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I think he wound up that same thing in the Stephen Foster. He had the rail. Yes. He's on the outside. He should be able to get a clean enough trip here. It's just a matter of how much ground will he lose by staying clear. Right. But I do think he's live at a price. And, he will be on some of my tickets. No question.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. And if you subscribe and comment with your pick for Saturday's Breeders' Cup Classic, you'll be entered for a chance to win a signed copy of Buyer on Speed from the great Andy Buyer himself. Time for our top picks. Mike, you'll go first for this one.
Listen, I feel like White Abarrio and Arabian Night are the 2 so-called right horses in here for whatever that's worth. I didn't really want a short price on either of those 2 horses. I slightly prefer White Abarrio to Arabian Night, but I'm going for a price in this race. I want Proxy in here. I hope he works out the right trip. I want to see him come running down the stretch.
I will definitely throw a few dollars on Proxy, but as putting an official pick on top on Tuesday, I would probably make it White Abarrio. His Whitney was sensational. I know there was some talk about a foot issue here, but once they got that resolved and I saw him work, that won me over. I thought it was a terrific work. He came home very well. Maybe a little bit of a question mark at 1.25 miles, but I'll put my faith in Rick Dutrow, who did win this race 18 years ago with St. Leon.
I'm with Dave. I like White Abarrio's tactical speed. I think he's going to tuck in behind the plethora of early speeds. Yes. He's shown the ability to carry it. He's going to get the jump on the true closers. And it looks like even with the freshening, he's coming into this race in good form for the babe. So I'll go with White Abarrio in the Breeders' Cup Classic. You can go so many different ways. Good luck.